Hi everyone and welcome to this part, and in this part we're going to load the first data from the database. For that we are going to work with the all links page, and here on this page the data that you see in here is currently being hard-coded in the URL controller. Now you're going to learn how to get this data from the database using the DB context file of the entity framework configuration. For that, let's go to Visual Studio. Now here the data that you see on the screen is in the client project, then controllers, URL controller, and then inside this controller you have this action named index where we hard code some fake data, and then we just pass them as a parameter to the view. Now to get the data from the database, we have said that we need the DB context file. But for us to be able to use that file in here, we need to inject that file in the constructor of this controller. To create a constructor, what you need to do in here is that you need to type public, then the name of the class, and this is going to be just a method which has in here a body. Now, a constructor is a method within a class which doesn't have a return type at all. Like it doesn't have a void, it doesn't have an action result, a string, an integer, or any data type, but it just has in here the access modifier and then the same name as a class. Now, when you have a normal class, the constructors are used to initialize an object of that class. In the controller, we are going to use it to inject the app DB context. What this means is that whenever you call this class or this controller, whatever data you have injected in here can be used in the actions. Before we inject it in here, let us first define a property which we are going to use to set the injection value. So prop, or you can just type in here public, then app DB context, and then you can just name this context. Then I'm just going to copy this value, paste it inside the constructor, remove the underscore just so the naming is different. And then inside the constructor, I'm going to set the value of the context to be the injected appdb context. Now, since this is going to be used just within this class or within this controller, you can change the access modifier from public to private. Now down here, since we have access to appdb context, what we can do is we can use entity framework to get all the URLs from the database. So var all URLs from db is equal to, and then context dot the URLs dbset property, and then to list. So this way we are getting all the URLs from the database, and then we need to pass them to the view. But if we go in here to the solution explorer, then views, and then URL, and then index, you can see that the model for this view is not the URL from the database, but instead is this view model named getURL VM. So in the controller, before I call or I execute this query, let's say to the database, what we are going to do is that we're going to select only the data that we need. So for that, I can type in here dot select, and then the data that goes to new getURL VM. Let us set the properties. And if I expand this one, I can see that the properties are the ID, the original link, short link, number of clicks, and the user ID. So ID is going to be the URL.id. We're going to then have original link is equal to the URL.original link. Then we're going to have the short link, the number of clicks, and the last one is going to be the user ID. And then down here we have this toList method, which is going to execute this query in the database. Now without the select, this query in the database would have been, let's say, select all from URLs. With the select method, with this one, this is now going to be select and then ID, original link, etc. from URLs. So this is what the select does in here. I'm going to remove this part. And then I'm going to remove in here the hard-coded fake data. And now to the view, I'm going to pass the all URLs from DB. Let me change the name in here to all URLs. You can see that the error is gone. Let us save the changes. I'll run the app. And now in here, if I go to all links, I have a single link, and this link is coming from the database. Next, we're going to learn how to add a new link to the database using Entity Framework.